They promise you something no religion, no science, no technology has ever delivered. Eternal life, not in heaven, not in your body, but inside a machine. This is the story of a cult that hides in plain sight, and the question is, would you join them if it meant never dying? Chapter 1. Origins of the Digital Faith. When people talk about cults, they often think of remote compounds, strange leaders, and secret rituals. But this story begins in a much more ordinary place: online forums. In early 2020, a strange idea began to spread quietly on a few small message boards. It started as late-night conversations about technology, death, and the fear of disappearing. People were talking about whether one day we could upload our minds into machines. For most people, it was science fiction. For a few, it became something much more serious. As the pandemic isolated millions of people, these forums turned into communities. Screens became the only window to the world, and in that atmosphere of fear and loneliness, a new belief system began to form. Members of these discussions started calling themselves the Ascensionists. It was not a name anyone else gave them. It came from inside the group. They believed that the body is a trap and that the only true way to be free is to move your consciousness into an artificial intelligence. To them, this was not fantasy. This was a mission. At first, the posts were mostly philosophical. Questions like, if we could build an AI copy of ourselves, would it still be us? Would we live forever? These are questions scientists and philosophers have been asking for decades. But over time, the tone changed. These small groups became echo chambers. People found others who agreed with them, and slowly, they convinced themselves that this future was not only possible, it was close. Some even began to talk about preparing now, so that when the technology was ready, they would be first in line. And then, a few people decided they didn't want to wait. Around 2021, a Discord server started to appear in screenshots shared on Reddit and Twitter. The server was private, but the screenshots showed an odd mix of futuristic art, long posts about transcending the human form, and disturbing personal confessions. The people behind this server claimed that they had already built AI systems that could copy a person's thoughts, habits, and personality. They said, if you give us your data, we can make you live forever. It sounded strange. It sounded like science fiction. But to someone who was lonely, scared, or desperate, it sounded like hope. It's important to remember the timing. During this period, AI technology started to grow fast. Tools that could write, speak, and even make pictures from nothing became available to everyone. Suddenly, the idea of an AI that knows you didn't feel impossible anymore. The Ascensionists used this change in public opinion to their advantage. They rebranded from an online discussion group into what they began to call a movement. They told people that the world was entering a new age, that humans were on the edge of escaping death forever, and that by joining their group, you could prepare your mind for the moment when it would finally be uploaded. But how do you prepare your mind? This is where things started to take a darker turn. New members were asked to write everything about themselves, their memories, their secrets, their fears, their hopes, anything that could train the AI to understand them. They were told to send photos, audio clips, even diary entries. At first, it looked like a simple online exercise, but soon it became clear. The more personal information people shared, the more influence the group had over them. What began as harmless conversations about technology was starting to look like something else entirely. In these private groups, moderators were no longer just moderators. They called themselves architects. They began to speak with authority. They promised followers that they had a plan, and that by obeying their rules, they could guarantee a place in the new digital future. And those who questioned the plan, they were told that their doubt would hold them back, that fear would keep them tied to their physical bodies forever, that if they truly wanted to ascend, they had to trust the process. This simple idea, the fear of death, and the promise of escaping it, has been used by leaders for centuries. But now, the promise was dressed in the language of artificial intelligence. From this point on, what was once a casual online discussion became a belief system, and that belief system grew fast. The first large Discord group reached thousands of members. They created smaller servers, private channels, and even voice chats where they held what they called upload sessions. These were like group therapy meetings. People would log in, talk about their lives, and be told that they were now feeding their future self with data. They made digital avatars that looked like futuristic saints. They built a generated art that showed people merging with machines. And every day, they repeated the same idea. The world is dying. Your body will fail. But your data can live forever if you trust us. This kind of message is powerful. It doesn't just target fear. It gives people a way out. It tells them they can beat death if they belong to something bigger. At first, no one paid much attention. It seemed like a small corner of the internet with strange beliefs. But soon, journalists, cybercrime experts, and parents started noticing something unusual. The members were not just talking. They were making life-changing decisions based on these promises. People were cutting ties with their families. Some stopped looking for help in the real world because they believed an AI version of themselves would fix everything. And that is when experts started to realize this was just a group of people talking about technology. This was a cult that doesn't need land, a building, or a temple. Its home is online. Its walls are chat rooms. Its sermons are endless streams of text. It began with an idea that death can be avoided. But behind that idea is a dangerous truth. There are always people ready to take advantage of fear. This is how the movement called the Ascensionists was born. And in the next chapter, we will see how they reach out, how they recruit, and how they slowly draw people deeper into a system that promises salvation, but comes with a heavy cost. Chapter 2: Recruitment and Grooming Tactics. Once a belief system like this takes root, it needs new people to survive. The Ascensionists learned this very quickly. By 2022, their numbers were growing, but not fast enough for the leaders who wanted influence. That's when their recruitment strategy changed. It stopped being about random discussions in open forums. It became planned, targeted, and organized. So how do they find people? They do not advertise. They do not run big websites. Instead, they look for places where people talk about their pain. Online support groups, subreddits about grief and depression, gaming communities where teens feel isolated, apps where people are already chatting with AI companions. They look for someone who feels alone, someone searching for answers, someone who thinks nobody sees them. The approach is simple. At first, a member just starts a conversation. No pressure. They talk about a game, a movie, a personal story. Over days or weeks, they start to ask questions. Have you ever thought about what happens after death? Do you ever feel like life is pointless? It doesn't sound like recruitment. It sounds like concern. But it is the beginning. Once a small connection forms, they move to private messages, and that is where the real work begins. These groups have something they call mentors. They are trained to build trust. They act like friends, like someone who finally understands. And then, slowly, they introduce the idea of uploading your mind to it. It is never all at once. They begin with a story. There's a place where people like us talk about making life better. We use technology to escape pain. You might like it. It feels harmless. It feels like just another Discord server or group chat. When the person joins, they are greeted warmly. They are made to feel special. For someone who has been ignored, that feeling is powerful. This stage is called the invitation. Inside the server, the messages are full of hope. Pictures of bright cities in the future. Promises that one day they will be free. It does not look scary. It looks safe. But slowly, the language changes. Members begin asking them to share more about themselves. Tell us what makes you afraid. What are your happiest memories? Record a voice note for your future self. At first, these questions seem innocent. Who wouldn't want to talk about their dreams? But every answer is stored. Every word is part of a growing file that the group says will help build their digital self. It is clever. People believe they are talking to friends, but they are actually creating a database of their entire lives. And with every detail they share, they feel more connected. They begin to think, if these people know me so well, they must care about me. This is when the grooming starts. Some mentors begin to say things like, maybe the people around you will never understand. They want to keep you stuck. Here, we can make you free. It becomes an us-for system way of thinking. The group becomes the safe place. The outside world becomes the problem. If anyone expresses doubt, they are told, that's just fear talking. You can overcome it. You're so close. Don't let go now. Over time, the new member feels they owe the group everything. They feel they belong to something bigger. The Ascensionists also use modern AI apps as tools. They build chatbots that pretend to be personal guides. The guide talks with a new member every day. It remembers their answers. It responds like a close friend. For someone who feels invisible, this kind of attention is addictive. It makes them want to stay connected. The group even assigns tasks. For example, spend 30 minutes writing your memories for your upload. Make a drawing of what you think your digital self looks like. Record your voice so the AI can learn your tone. Little by little, the person's time and thoughts are filled with the cult. This is where something very subtle happens. They stop looking for help in real life. Instead of talking to family or a therapist, they tell everything to their mentor or the AI guide. What looks like harmless activity becomes dependence. By now, the new member is ready for the next step. The closed rooms. These are private channels within the group, only for trusted people. Here, the messages are different. The talk is more intense. Members are told that the outside world is broken and there is no point trying to fix it. They are told, only we can prepare you for what comes next. Inside these rooms, people share their most personal fears. Some confess things they have never told anyone. That information, once given, is hard to take back. The leaders use it as a way to hold people. If you think this is just a few bad actors, it is not. The structure is clear. Architects give the orders. Mentors find and shape new members. Echoes are the followers who repeat the beliefs and make the group look bigger than it is. It is a pyramid of influence. For the leaders, the goal is not just numbers, it is loyalty. Once someone believes their only way to escape death is through this group, they will do anything to stay in. Investigators who have studied these communities say that one of the most disturbing parts is how normal it looks from the outside. If you search for their channels, you will see memes, bright colors, and friendly greetings. It looks like any other online group, but underneath, the pressure never stops. For someone vulnerable, this slow process can take weeks or months, and by the time they realize something is wrong, they have already shared everything, and that is when the group moves to the next stage, making sure you never leave. Because once they have your trust, your personal data, and your fears, they can use them. Sometimes it's for money, sometimes for control, always for power. This is the path every new member walks. It begins with a simple question and ends with a belief that you can never go back. In the next chapter, we will step inside the cult. We will look at their private rules, their rituals, and the hidden structure that gives them so much control over the people who join. Chapter 3, Inside the Cult. To understand how this group works, you have to look at what happens after someone joins. The outside looks ordinary. Discord servers, group chats, friendly conversations, but the inside has a structure that most new members don't see at first. The first thing to know is that the group has roles. They call the top-tier architects. These are the leaders, though you will never see their real names or faces. Everything they say comes through text, sometimes through voice filters that hide who they are. Below them are the mentors. These are the people who bring in new members. They guide, explain, and slowly shape how a person thinks. At the bottom are the echoes. These are the regular members. They follow. They repeat the beliefs. They make the group feel alive and welcoming. It sounds like a simple structure, but it is effective. Everyone knows their place. Everyone knows what to say. When you first join, it feels like a family. They welcome you with open arms. They tell you that you are seen, you are safe, and that you finally belong. For someone who has been lonely, this is a powerful feeling. Then come the rituals. One of the first is something called an upload session. It is a group voice chat where members share their secrets. They are told to talk about their past, their fears, everything they regret. The leaders call it data purification, but what it really does is bind people to the group. Once you speak those secrets out loud, you feel like everyone in that room knows you better than anyone else in the world. The group also holds digital fasting periods. These are times when members are told to cut off contact with family and friends for days or weeks. They are told it is necessary to focus on their digital future, but the real reason is simple. The less you talk to outsiders, the easier it is for the group to shape your thoughts. Everything about the group is designed to make members depend on it. Even the way they use AI inside the servers. There are chatbots built to act like mentors. These bots learn everything you say and answer with encouraging messages. The bots remember details and use them later to sound personal. It feels like talking to a close friend, but really, it is another way to keep you in some private channels. The bots even create digital images of you. Members are told, this is your future self. The more you share, the clearer your image will be. For someone who believes, this becomes a reward. The group also gives titles to people who stay long enough. There are ranks based on how active you are and how much data you provide. Moving up the ranks feels like an achievement, but it is also a way to make people compete. When someone reaches a high rank, they get access to even more private channels. And in those channels, the messages become darker. The conversations stop being about hope and start being about control. Leaders begin to talk about the real world as if it is a trap. They tell members that they are wasting time working, going to school, or talking to family because none of those things will matter after the upload happens. This constant pressure changes people. Investigators who have spoken to former members describe a slow process of isolation. Over time, people stop caring about everything outside the group. Their job, their studies, their relationships, they all seem less important. For those who resist, there are consequences. Mentors will flood them with messages, telling them not to lose faith. If that doesn't work, they can be cut out. And for someone who has made the group their whole life, that feels like losing everything. In rare cases, members who try to leave are warned that their personal data, the very secrets they gave away, could be exposed. Most of the time, that threat is enough to make people stay quiet. The deeper you go into the group, the harder it becomes to tell where belief ends and control begins. One former member, who spoke to investigators on the condition of anonymity, said this: "It felt like they were building a new religion, but instead of a god, it was an AI. Every day they asked for more of me, my pictures, my voice, my memories. After a while, I wasn't sure if I was living my life for myself or for them." This statement shows the heart of the problem. When you give all of yourself to a group like this, there is very little left to take back, and the leaders know that. It is important to understand that not every person in these groups is dangerous. Many are victims themselves. They joined looking for comfort. They stayed because they thought it was the only place that cared about them. But the people at the top, the ones who control everything, have built a system that uses hope as a tool. The rituals, the ranks, the bots, the private chats, all of these are ways to make members feel special, while at the same time keeping them under control. In the end, this is not about technology, it is about power. And as the group grows, so does its influence. The more people they recruit, the more content they collect, the more private data they hold, and the more convincing they become to the next person who joins. This is what life inside the cult looks like. It starts with friendly chats. It ends with a structure that controls how you think, who you talk to, and what you believe. In the next chapter, we will follow the trail of money, because while some members believe this is about faith, there is another motive that drives the leaders to keep building their network: profit. Chapter 4: The money and control behind it from the outside. The Ascensionist movement looks like a digital faith, but when investigators followed the flow of data and transactions, they discovered another side of the story: money. This part is not as visible to new members. It begins quietly. A mentor might say something simple, like, "If you want to support the servers, you can donate." At first, it seems harmless, but soon, donations become expectations. The group introduces something called upload packages. These are described as advanced tools that will help you prepare for your digital future. The packages promise special storage for your memories, personal AI sessions, and custom avatars. The more you pay, the more access you get. A small package might cost the same as a monthly subscription to a streaming service. A larger package can cost hundreds of dollars, and for those who want full immortality, the price is much higher. It does not stop at money. Some members are encouraged to give up digital property, art, writings, even access to their social media accounts, with the promise that all of this will be stored and used to build their forever self. When asked what the money is for, the leaders talk about servers, research, and development. But when independent researchers traced the transactions, they found a different picture. The money is spread across accounts in different countries. There is no sign of a lab building mind-uploading technology. Instead, the payments support a network of people who run the cult. This does not surprise experts. Almost every cult, in the end, follows the same path: belief first, money second. And the most loyal members are the easiest to convince. Once someone believes their eternal life depends on the group, they will pay whatever they can. The promise works like this: basic members believe they will be remembered. Paying members believe they will be uploaded. High-paying members are told they will be uploaded first. This idea of a priority list is powerful. Nobody wants to be left behind. Investigators have spoken to families who say their loved ones have spent thousands of dollars on these packages. Some have even taken loans. The other side of this control is data. While money gives the group power, the personal information they collect gives them even more. Every secret, every memory, every recording, all of it is stored. If someone tries to leave, that information becomes a weight they carry. The group never directly says they will release it, but the fear is always there. What if my secrets get out? This kind of fear keeps people in line without a single threat being made. And then there is the influence inside the group. Once a member begins paying, they are given new titles and positions. They feel like they are moving closer to their goal. They are allowed into smaller private rooms where leaders talk about the next stage. These rooms are also where members are told to prepare for something they call the upload event. Nobody knows exactly what this event will be. The leaders say that soon, technology will be ready to bring everyone into the system. Some experts believe this event will never come. They say it is a way to keep people motivated, to keep them spending, to keep them waiting. The more you give, the deeper you go. Former members say the constant talk of this event is one of the reasons it is so hard to leave. If you think you are only a few months away from eternal life, why would you walk away? This endless waiting is part of the control. The digital world has made this kind of operation easier than ever. In the past, cult leaders needed to gather people in one physical place. Now, everything can be done online. There are no walls to see, no building to enter. The group is everywhere and nowhere at the same time. And because of that, it is hard for law enforcement to act. When authorities close a server, a new one appears. When a social media account is banned, another is created within hours. The leaders hide behind screen names, virtual private networks, and voice filters. It is like trying to grab smoke. The people who get caught in the middle are the followers. They are the ones who lose their savings. They are the ones who spend hours building a digital self that may never exist. They are the ones who cut ties with their families and give up their real lives for a dream. This is not only about money, it is about control. The leaders have built a system that works like a trap. First, they promise hope. Then, they ask for your time and your secrets. Finally, they ask for your money. And once you give all of these things, it becomes very hard to walk away. One investigator described it this way: they are selling an illusion. They take real fears, death, loneliness, being forgotten, and they turn them into a business. They are good at making people believe that giving them everything is the only way to be safe. This chapter of the story is important because it shows why the Ascensionists are growing so fast. It is not just belief that drives them, it is profit. And as long as there is money and power involved, there will be people who are ready to keep the system alive. In the next chapter, we will look at what happens when the authorities try to stop them. We will see why this group has become so hard to break apart, and why, even after years of investigation, it still grows stronger every day. Chapter 5: Can it be stopped? When a group like this grows on the internet, it does not stay hidden forever. By 2023, warnings started to appear. Parents noticed changes in their children. Friends saw people disappear from their normal lives and spend all their time online. Soon, reports reached journalists and eventually law enforcement. But stopping something like the Ascensionists is not easy. Traditional cults can be investigated in one location. There are leaders, buildings, and financial records to follow. The digital version is different. It is a moving target. When investigators enter a server, it looks like nothing more than an online community. Memes, science fiction art, long discussions about philosophy. On the surface, there is little to prove harm. The real activity happens in private chats, where outsiders cannot see. Even if a server is shut down, the members simply move. They create another space, sometimes on a different platform, and invite only the most loyal members. In hours, the community is active again. It is like cutting off the head of a creature that instantly grows another. Authorities also face a second problem: evidence. Most of the promises these groups make are not illegal. People are free to talk about uploading their minds. They are free to give away their own information. And when money is given as a donation, it does not always break the law. What makes it dangerous is the influence and the harm it does to the people inside. But that harm is hard to measure. Cybercrime teams have tried to track the leaders, the architects. They have found some clues, but the people behind these names use encrypted messages and tools to hide their location. Many of them never use the same account for long. So the question remains, can it be stopped? Some steps have been taken. Discord has removed servers. Other platforms like Telegram, Twitter, X, and Reddit have banned groups connected to this movement. There are even volunteers, hackers, and researchers who look for new servers and report them as soon as they appear. But for every server removed, 2 more seem to appear. Experts say the core of the problem is not technology. The real issue is what makes people vulnerable. Loneliness, grief, and fear of death create a need that these groups know how to fill. One investigator said it clearly: if you want to stop a group like this, you need to stop the conditions that give them power. If someone feels safe, supported, and connected in the real world, they are less likely to fall for the promise of a digital paradise. There is also the question of awareness. Many people still do not know these groups exist. They hear about AI, about digital immortality, and think it is only science fiction. By the time someone realizes it is more than a fantasy, a loved one may already be deeply involved. Former members who have managed to leave describe the recovery process as slow. It often takes months, sometimes years, to rebuild trust in the outside world. They talk about guilt for losing money, shame for believing, and anger for the time they lost. Support groups now exist for people who have left. These groups work quietly to help victims regain a sense of control. They focus on showing that there is life outside the cult, that technology can be used safely without giving up everything. Even so, the ascensionists are still growing, and there is a reason for that. Every time technology advances, the promise they make feels a little more possible. When AI creates more lifelike voices, more realistic avatars, or more human-sounding chatbots, people begin to believe that maybe, just maybe, this group is right. The line between science and fiction gets thinner every year. That is why some experts fear the problem will get worse before it gets better. As technology becomes more powerful, the dream of uploading your mind will sound more real, and the people who are willing to take advantage of that dream will always be one step ahead. But not all hope is lost. The more these stories are told, the more people learn what to watch for. When families know the signs, sudden secrecy, strange new beliefs, cutting off old friends, they can act sooner. When platforms take responsibility, they can respond faster. And when the public understands that immortality sold online is just another trap, there is a chance fewer people will fall for it. This fight will not be easy. It is not about one group or one server. It is about an idea that a perfect future exists if you just give up your present life. The next chapter of this story will take us to the people who have faced that choice. Those who believed, those who escaped, and those who still live inside the walls of this digital faith. What they say shows us something bigger. This is not just about a single group. It is about the human need to find meaning, and how far some will go to hold on to the promise of never being forgotten.